Right, where do we go next? Um, we're going to delve into hidden realms now that too few are aware of. And this is a portion of a classified document that details the hidden underworld of the military and their research centres for warfare purposes. It outlines the staggering secrecy of it all, the staggering costs of it all, both of which the American public are oblivious to. The sheer evil ways these people operate within and by boggles the mind. But this is the US death and war machine cult at its worst. The summary of events and problems US Chemical Army Corps, October 1957. Yes, it went on that far back. Scientists attending meetings from chemical warfare laboratories, engineering command, Dugway Proving Grounds, which is Area 52, and it has little fancy things, people below the surface, Biological Warfare Laboratories, Material Command, Chemical Corps Board and Chemical Corps School contributed 13 papers to this document. Mr. William G. Tank of Dugway Proving Grounds. Well, I never. I wonder did he fall off the cliff. Received one of 3 $500 awards for outstanding papers, and his papers are being downwind dosage equations. Dr. Arthur J. Dezemian, Chemical Warfare Laboratories, received one of 6 $300 prizes. This was in 1957. And Dr. Zeman's paper was entitled Wound Ballistic Assessment of Bullets. 4 other Chemical Corps scientists, R. M. Acker, R. W. Heitmeyer, R. H. McQueen, and H. S. Greenfield were awarded certificates for achievement. And all in all, Chemical Corps papers received 4 awards out of 22, and they said this was an excellent showing. Badges and awards for death again. So what were they involved in? Well, this is the technical operations. V agents. The Corps placed major emphasis on the development of a class of compounds known as the V agents. The V agents discovered in 1954 are very most prominent potential agents that have appeared since the Germans found the G agents in the 1930s. The G or GB agents are the nerve gas sarin. These compounds, judging by animal tests, are slightly more toxic than GB when inhaled, approximately 50 times more toxic when absorbed through the skin from a cloud, and several hundred times more toxic when absorbed through the skin from liquid droplets. It is percutaneous toxicity that makes the compounds particularly important, since a mask alone will not protect the soldier. He will need protective clothing, protective ointments, and if contaminated with V agents, prompt medical attention. The agents that have been given the most attention are given below with their EA, Edgewood Arsenal number, and Chemical Corps symbols. EA 508-VG 00 diethyl S2-diethylaminoethyl phosphorothiolate, EA511 VP3, pyridyl 335 trimethyl cyclohexyl methylphosphonate, EA517 VE0 ethyl S2 2-diethylaminoethyl with ethyl phosphonothylate, EA1664 VM0 ethyl S2 diethyl aminoethyl methylphosphonothiolate, EA1677 VS0 ethyl S2 diisopropylaminoethyl ethyl phosphonothiolate, EA1701 VX0 ethyl S2 diisopropylaminoethyl methylphosphonothiolate. And in February 1957, if I can get my tongue back in my mouth after those words, the Research and Development Command selected the VX as the agent upon which to concentrate, which was the last one. And the Chemical Warfare Laboratories, however, continued their investigations of the V agents under the possibility that one or more compounds superior to VX might be found. And the V agents evaporate more slowly than the G agents or mustard gas. The volatility of VX resembles that of lubricating oil. As a consequence, the compounds will probably be disseminated as liquid droplets, i.e. rain. As airborne clouds or in munitions, especially designed to penetrate clothing and allow the liquid to reach the skin. Droplets from spray tanks can contaminate equipment, buildings, vegetation, the ground, and unsheltered soldiers. Airborne clouds, in which the particles must be large enough to impact effectively on the skin, but small enough to not settle out, can find their way into buildings and field fortifications. The dissemination of V agents has required the establishment of new techniques and means of valuation. For example, technicians must determine the most suitable particle size, taking into consideration the rate at which clouds will travel, the absorption through clothing and skin, and so on, and then try to adjust munitions to provide particles of the desired size. And the Corps have been studying the dispersion of V agents by the so-called self-dispersing bomblets, which can be dropped from aircraft or guided missiles. To handle problems that will arise in the testing and evaluations of the V agents, Dugway Proving Ground organised a V agent team in April of 1957. The V agents are similar to GB in general physiological action. Casualties caused by aerosol or liquid agents may occur within hours or minutes, depending on the amount that comes in contact with the soldier. If the soldier should happen to inhale the V agents, he would be a casualty in a few minutes. The indicated treatment for the V agents is the same as the G agents, that is, by injection of atropine and artificial respiration. Laboratory experiments indicated that M5 ointments is as effective against V as it is against mustard gas. The Corps endeavoured to improve its ointments to better provide protection against both G and V agents. Here's a common sense statement. You can improve it totally by not having them. Just saying. As is the case with V agents, a field alarm and an area scanning alarm are extremely important for the rapid detection of V agents. The Corps have been developing the possibility of using LOPIR, long path infrared, equipment originally developed for G agents and V agent detection. While a standard mask is sufficient protection against vapor-borne V agents, standard protective clothing is less satisfactory, and one of the problems facing the personnel engaged in the development of protective items is the design of clothing which will give soldiers much more protection against the new agents. How benevolent of them. During the year, the Corps prepared to produce V agents in Chemical Corp plants. The method of production and raw materials needed in the other technical services to be reduced by attrition. Dispersed stockage locations were reduced from 28 to 19 during 1957 without the expense of inter-depot shipments. Toxic planning and production. On July 1st, 1956, the Chemical Corps Phosphate Development Works, PDW, at Muscle Shoals, Alabama, was transferred from the Chemical Corps Engineering Command to the Chemical Corps Material Command. PDW manufactured dichloro, formerly dichlor, the intermediate product for the manufacture of GB nerve gas by the dimethyl hydrogen phosphate process. Engineering Command assigned a project engineer to the supervision of phosphorus oxychloride reduction facility, where the only remaining principal production problem remained to be solved. And this facility, which reduced production step 3 by product phosphorus oxychloride to step 1 raw material, phosphorus trichloride, had never been able to keep pace either with the amount of the material requiring reduction or with demands for raw material. Now, during 1957, optimum operating conditions for reduction furnaces using modified refractory furnace lining was established in the phosphorus oxychloride reduction facility, and data thus collected permitted a calculation of a predictable furnace run of 100 days at an average reduction rate of 50 tons per day. 50 tons per day, which would support a 100 tons per day production rate of dichloro. Such maximum performances, they said, represented full operation of the plant without the necessity for sale of phosphorus oxychloride to private industry. Other production accomplishments at PDW, they do like to backslap themselves, including the installation of a vacuum jet system to replace centrifugal vacuum pumps in step 1, and the operation of the entire plant on production capability runs at a rate exceeding mobilization objectives. Now, the jet system allowed operation of step 1 at peak rates of 77 tons per day at qualities as high as 92.5%. And the production capability runs demonstrated that dichloro production rates of 75 tons or better were possible in sustained production. A 45 ton per day rate was considered acceptable for round-out purposes. Round-out of the facility at Rocky Mountain Arsenal, Colorado, where the last 2 steps of the agent production process take place, was substantially complete in the first quarter of 1957. There was no significant production difficulties through modification of equipment. Major and minor repair work and maintenance work proceeded throughout the year. Demands did not require agent production on a sustained basis, but production during the second and third quarters was 6,055,877 pounds of agent at a yield of 88.3% for the second quarter and 91.77% for the third quarter. £6 million of toxic agents in just 6 months. The question is, where did all these toxic agents go? Now, during the second quarter, the plant operated at 85.4% and the third quarter 90.2% of the available time, notably exceeding the sustained run of the fiscal year 1956, when the plant was inoperable 17.7% of the available time. Now, the average feed rate for the second quarter was 170%, and for the third quarter, 197.6% of the round-out schedule. Now, 2 peaks of 240% feed rate was attained. The sustained rates and the peaks were a clear indication of high mobilization potential. Enlisted scientific and professional personnel made significant contributions to production and operation accomplishments both at Muscle Shoals and at Rocky Mountain Arsenal. The 2 waste disposal facilities planned at Rocky Mountain Arsenal in 1956 were put into operation during 1957. The evaporative waste disposal lake was installed on October the 27th. The evaporative waste disposal lake. And the chlorine plant reduction of byproduct hydrochloric acid during the second quarter production run. Both methods of disposal were successful, although there was storm damage to the lake during the year, which likely caused runoff in that region. Wonder if the death rates went up in northern Colorado after that. As of the end of year, plans were being made to designate the chlorine plant as an operating adjunct of the GB plant. Agent produced during fiscal year 1957 and that carried over from the fiscal year 1956 was used to fill ton containers, M360 shells and M121 shells. Production to meet total requirements for these purposes was near completion at the end of the fiscal year, and an attempt to revise these requirements to provide for a larger mobilization agent stockpile was not successful. The principal problem was that there has been no basic agreement on a basic day of supply for toxic munitions. The Assistant Chief Chemical Officer for Planning and Doctrine was working to establish the criteria for day of supply calculation at the end of the fiscal year, but meanwhile the Deputy Chief of Staff for Logistics ordered the cessation of agent production in early 1958, since budget-supported force requirements would be met. Now, during 1957, a new agent was being considered for production. The Chief Chemical Officer, on the advice of a committee appointed to consider V-agent production plans, directed that the target for operation of a continuous process, 10 ton per day V-agent production plant be moved from June 1962 to January 1960. Slightly more than $36 million was requested from higher authority for the accomplishment of this goal. The question we must ask, who is the higher authority? As of the end of the fiscal year, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Logistics had directed $29.9 million of this sum, representing actual construction of the plant, be deferred from fiscal year 1958 to fiscal year 1959 programming. A fiscal year, in case you don't know, runs from September to September, and it was expected that a reconsideration of this decision would be requested early in the fiscal year of 1958. Unreal is how I would describe that. Final portion tonight. I think you've learnt enough. Perhaps with the last piece you have to realise more. And there was a discussion this week about who are the top of the tree in terms of the control system. And of course, in the past, until it was decimated, before our ambassador took her role, it was the Draco, the Parents, the Covenant, and then Illuminati, or the other several names they went by. But the Illuminati are the low-level puppets, they always were. So are the Club of Rome, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Group, the Committee of the 300, the Circle, CIA, DIA, and GIA. Throw in your think tanks like Tavistock, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, of which you will find all politicians or prominent people have engaged with, and in all of them are puppets to the old system. The Illuminati disbanded and broke into factions, of which there were 5 or potentially 6. But those 5 or 6 all had the 2 main groups of factions within their faction, the Rothschilds and the Black Sun. They install their people in all areas so they win. But let us not forget, the top of the tree was cut down. And so now all these puppets, none of which have a clue, as there is no direction from the top anymore. Now these people and entities think that they are the top of the tree. But what they fail to realise is that tree was cut down to a rotting stump and being fed on by the insects. Oh, the irony. The giant tree of life, theirs was the Kabbalah tree, the tree of Darth, death. It was so big it stifled all growth in the surrounding forest. You're riding the endless caravan, bonded and sold as a slave, or thrive within and of your own sovereignty. Sleep with the devil and then you must pay. Sleep with the devil will take you away. Or you observe, not absorb, and dance within. Let go of your self-made prison bars and set yourself free. In nature there is no void. New growth must arise. We the people are that new growth. We are the saplings. We are not the phoenix from the ashes. We are the eagles that soar from above. We are the butterflies emerging from the caterpillar. We have to plant the seeds of growth to allow all to grow at the same time, so the forest blooms again in harmony with each other and nature. You want climate change? You want environmental change? We the people are both. You change the climate by changing the people's energy fields. You change the environment by becoming the forest of growth and living in harmony. The question is, will you stand watching the rotten stump decay and we all die with it, or plant your new seeds of growth? Choose wisely. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.